It's the first tournament arc of the whole entire series. That's right, Genkai is looking for a new student, and the only way to find that person is through a tournament. Let's begin with the Rando arc. How's it going, everybody? Your world champion here, back with the Yu Yu Hakusho Arc reviews, starting off again with the Rando arc. Now, this arc, we get introduced to Genkai. She's doing this tournament to find the successor to her power known as the Spirit Wave. So, Yusuke goes there in search of a demon named Rando, who, over the past 100 years, has been killing psychics and stealing their powers. So it's up to Yusuke to stop this guy from taking Genkai's ultimate power, the Spirit Wave. We meet up with Kuwabara during this part, and he helps Yusuke as well in this tournament to find Rando and take him out. So yeah, in the end, Yusuke wins. He has to spend 6 months training with Genkai in order to accurately take the Spirit Wave from her. So with that being said, let's just talk about some things that I didn't like in this arc. So, with a lot of arcs in Yu Yu Hakusho, I'm having a hard time finding things I didn't like. I'm having to be very nitpicky with things just to kind of try to talk about the arc itself, and that way I'm not just overpraising something. So, one thing I do want to just kind of point out really quick: why does Koenma have so much paperwork? Because he has to stamp these papers of dead souls coming in. Are people really dying that much, or is it demons that he has to control with all that paperwork? I don't know. It's a lot of paperwork he has to go through. So, and we see this later on as well. Like, it just becomes a trope of his where he always has all this paperwork he has to do. And it always piles up two on top of him. So he has to keep stamping away, making sure people get to where they need to go in the afterlife. But that's just one little nitpick I have, mainly because, again, later on, it becomes a trope of his. But really, are people dying that much for him to be so busy? So next I want to bring up is Kuwabara's first death. I say first because later on in the series, he has another fake out death that does amount to something, but in the end, he lives because of reasons. But, you know, Rando shrinks Kuwabara down to really, really tiny size, and he's holding him in his hands. He breaks multiple ribs of his, breaks his arms, and just tosses him away. So you would think Kuwabara would have died from internal bleeding. Understandably so, you know. Botan is there. She could heal him. I'm sure she did some sort of first aid before Yusuke started fighting, even though we do see her just gawking, looking on. But you would think that Kuwabara would have died from internal bleeding. Just throwing that out there. Like, and then later on in this fight, he turned into a spirit to boost Yusuke's morale, because Yusuke almost dies. But again, Kuwabara turns into a spirit. I guess you can put into words where you can twist it in a way where Kuwabara, he has so much spiritual awareness that he's able just to turn himself into a spirit when he's almost dead, to go talk to Yusuke, who's almost dying, to tell him to get his ass up and to not lose, because he's going to lose to Kuwabara. You can twist it that way. I don't know. That was just one thing that I'm being nitpicky about in this arc. Next up, and this is gonna be a two-parter as well, because I want to use this picture right here. So we see these combatants here. Which one do you think is a demon in disguise? Which one would you think a demon in disguise would use in order to hide from people? Go ahead. I'll give you like 2 seconds. Yeah, if you chose the little beady-eyed kid right there, you'd be right. Rando's disguise sucks. It is bad. Like, it's bad. I mean, why would you use the most obvious choice to disguise yourself? Like, the most obvious choice is obvious. You know, he is Rando. Out of all the burly men that we see, this is Rando. This is his disguise. But not only that, the other nitpick I have is, so we have the preliminary rounds, which Genkai used to test everybody's spiritual awareness, their ability to grow, their strength, all that stuff. So we have 8 contestants that take part in the next round of the tournament, which is basically fighting in the dark. These people die, or do they die? My biggest gripe with it is what happens to the bodies. What happens to these people? Did they actually die? Did Genkai just kind of kick their body somewhere while they're unconscious? Like, what happened to these people? Did they die? I need confirmation. Let me know down in the comments what happened with these people. Did they die? Did they just be unconscious, wake up and leave? What happened? So those 2 points, I'm lumping them again together because it's my video and I want to. The last thing I'm going to harp on about, so Rando, he's a being that has 99 techniques. 99 techniques. Yet we only see him use 6. And I only say 6 because one of those techniques is the spirit gun that he just uses on a whim just from seeing Yusuke do it. The other 5 he uses. So he uses this fireball technique against Kuwabara. He uses the shrinking power against Kuwabara. He uses these like wind scythe things on Yusuke to kind of cut him down a little bit. He uses that, I want to say bungee gum, but I'm thinking of Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter with that. But he uses that to kind of tie up Yusuke so he doesn't move. And then he uses a summoning jutsu to summon these piranha fish in the lake. He only uses those 5 techniques, 6 including the spirit gun. He's a being with 99 techniques. There wasn't one other technique he could use to just finish off Yusuke very quickly. And I mean, you can always use the argument, especially with the shrinking technique, because of the chanting and all that. Like, it even says, you know, one slip up and the chant would have rebounded on me, and the effects would have hit on me instead. So you could use that argument as well, but to think that there's a being that has 99 techniques, but you only use 5 to 6 of them to fight a kid. And that's the other thing, like, this is a kid. You're a being with 99 techniques, and you lose to a kid. That's whatever. The way he loses is something entirely different, which we'll actually go into later on. But just the fact that he has so many techniques, and we only see 5 to 6 of them, kind of lame in my book. Okay, let's start off the positive section with my main man, Kuwabara, and him finding out he has a spirit sword. That's right, Kuwabara's power is released, it's unleashed, and it's pretty cool. I really like his power. And the fact that he is kind of a bumbling idiot with a sword is also kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we just get the introduction of his power and what he can almost kind of do with it. It's very cool. And even Genkai kind of takes a step back and is like, oh, wow, he can manifest spiritual energy like that. Great. He has great spiritual awareness. Good on you, Kuwabara. Kuwabara's the man. I love Kuwabara. We'll talk more about his spirit sword later on because there's some upgrades that he does as well, but it was nice to see him having a power now because he was introduced kind of as, I guess, kind of like Yusuke's rival. So, and he even says in the arc, you know, I have a gun and you have a sword. We have some great weapons, Urameshi. He can't beat us with those two. I mean, he ends up beating Kuwabara anyway, so whatever. But again, nice to have Kuwabara on the team, having a power and not being just some random human. Next up, I want to talk about the preliminary test. So Genkai, obviously people have heard of Genkai, her power and what she's all about. So when people had heard news that she was looking for somebody to take over her power, her spirit wave, everyone flocked to her gates in drones. So the first preliminary test was to get these lots, open it up, and if you had a red paper, you would pass that qualifying test. So you have all these people, these ripped guys just opening up these papers. Whites come out, some reds come out, and all that. But it turns out that the paper will turn red based off of your spirit energy. So if you exhibit some sort of amount of spirit energy, it turns red, and you can move on to the next qualifying match. Which brings us to the next qualifying matches. We have basically an arcade game. Now, she has 3 arcade games. There's rock, paper, scissors, there's a punching game, and there's karaoke. Each one measures your spirit energy output. So I think the output one was the punching machine. So when you punch the machine, it was set to only count how much spirit energy you're releasing out, so how much power you have, and it measures it up, and basically the top 8 win that one. So if you pass that one, great. If you don't, sucks to suck. Then you have the rock, paper, scissors one. That's supposed to range your spiritual awareness. So obviously Kuwabara does really good with that. I think he ends up getting a perfect score on that too. So another point for my man Kuwabara. And then the karaoke machine is supposed to test your adaptability. So it tests how much growth potential you have. So people can have like 20, 80, 100, whatever. But I really like this because it throws in a video game aspect, because I like video games myself. But it's just something neat, new, and interesting to see them use these ways to test their power system. So kudos to Tagashi for creating such an interesting way to measure the power system, especially for Genkai to see what all they have to do. And then the last preliminary test being the trek through the woods, using your spiritual awareness in order to make the right path through the woods to get to the tree in, I think it was like a 3-hour time limit. It was 3 hour or 12 hour, I can't remember. But there was a set time limit. Yusuke ends up getting to it right at the nick of time. So, yeah, nice little preliminary test before our tournament actually begins. Next up, Genkai. We get introduced to Genkai, who is Yusuke's teacher. She's a very powerful psychic with the Spirit Wave move in her arsenal. Again, like I've been saying throughout this whole review, she is looking for somebody to take over her power. Not necessarily her position, just her power. She likes video games. She even tells them not to touch some of the video games that are in her arcade at her home. But she's also very strict as well, because there's a few moments where she says, she basically talks down to Yusuke a lot. They have a very interesting dynamic between the two, and we see this more in the story later on. But again, this is more of the introductory to her as a character. But yeah, she is a very strict person. She basically tells people, you're in this to either live or die. So if you feel like you're gonna die, just go home. Go home. We even see 2 people run away from the forest part of the preliminaries. They say they don't want no part of it. They run home, and she laughs at them, saying, yes, if you want to go home, go ahead. You don't have to risk your life if you don't feel like you need to. But yeah, we don't get too much of Genkai here. Again, it's mainly just an introduction to who she is and just her character overall and some of the quirks that she has as well. So we'll delve more into Genkai in later arcs, especially the big arc that we're about to get to. So yeah, there's a lot of intrigue and mystery with Genkai, but she's a great character overall. So these last 2 points I'm going to kind of lump together as well. So the first one being that Yusuke has a hard time in this arc fighting. So his first match in the darkness against, I forgot the guy's name, but he has this helmet where he can actually see in the darkness so he can see everywhere Yusuke goes. And Yusuke has a tough time with this. And the only reason Yusuke wins is because before the fight, Genkai threw her cigarette into the darkness. So Yusuke picked up the still kind of lit cigarette and put it on the guy's belt. And so he was able to see where the cigarette was going, so he was able to beat him that way. So he got lucky on that part. And then another part of his luck was when he was facing the ninja dude. He was running towards this guy who had thrown all these like exploding shuriken his way. And Yusuke's running back to him, and the ninja's kind of, he knows what's going to happen. Yusuke's going to try to dodge at the last minute, but the ninja pretty much does have Yusuke's number here. But Yusuke ends up disappearing. The shuriken come to the ninja guy. He uses his giant spear wave thing. Huge explosion. He gets blown back, loses the match. But Yusuke only disappeared because he fell into the swamp. He fell into a swamp hole. So that's how he was able to dodge the shuriken. Okay, cool, great. Great luck with that. And then we get to his fight with Rando. And this goes into my other point of how Rando basically lost because he didn't think straight. I guess he didn't think of all the possibilities. So, and he used another technique again. He used the same technique again. He tried to shrink Yusuke down using that, but it ended up rebounding off of him, so he ended up shrinking instead of Yusuke. And when he didn't know what happened, so he's just like, how did this happen? And Genkai tells him, she's like, well, in order for the person to, fall for the spell, they need to hear you. Apparently, Yusuke had gotten swamp moss in his ears. I guess from when he fell into the hole, or when he was drowning and almost eaten by the piranhas. So Yusuke got very lucky. He was able to beat Rando this way. So kind of cool how we got the disbelief from the suspension of disbelief, of a straight up winning fist fight. I mean, yeah, Yusuke ends up like doing a falling elbow onto Rando, but just Yusuke's luck in general. Like, he struggled in this fight. I mean, he ended up using the spear gun twice in a single day as well. So, and he was able to beat Rando in a spear gun battle. So, Yusuke really stepped up the plate, but it was a very hard fought battle for him, which I really appreciate, especially the other two fights we had as well. He had to really think on top of his feet, and also he got lucky a couple times as well. So yeah, for all of that, I like that in this arc. So my overall grade for the Rando arc is an A-. Again, the only things I really had wrong with this arc were just a bunch of nitpicks. But again, it's not like upper echelon of Yu Yu Hakusho. Again, we're just kind of introducing some more characters. We are just kind of laying that groundwork for later on in the series when things start kind of ramping up, start moving at a quicker pace, and basically we don't know where everything's going to happen from there. So yeah, A- I think is a fair grade for the Rando arc, but let me know down in the comments what you thought of this arc. Be sure to like the video if I entertain you in any way, shape, or form. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I have these arc reviews. I have all my other content that's going on. And don't want you to miss any of it. So, as always, people, I've been your world champion. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.